could still have your value proposition clearly defined, value statement as well put in place, but executing or crafting even your comprehensive marketing strategy could be a mismatch. So you end up not even being able to get to the markets or in the manner in which you would like to. So we're going to deal with three areas that will help us be able to understand how to craft a compelling marketing strategy for your app business. First of all, we need to define your marketing goals. What are those marketing goals? We'll talk about the SMART framework as well here. You need to also be able to identify, we'll talk about how to identify target audience and marketing channels in which to get to them. I had one entrepreneur here saying, well, look, my users on TikTok, do I get credits to reach them in TikTok, on TikTok? Again, it's understanding where your users are, which channels to use to get to them. And the last one, it's crafting effective messaging. What do you say to them when you see your customers about your product? It's so important. So developing key message themes, crafting the channels in which these themes will then be used is as important, because your message on TikTok will not be the same as your message on LinkedIn. If you happen to have an app that have user personas that you could find on both channels, obviously these channels are vast, but I've seen people that on LinkedIn also having a very solid TikTok account. So it's not far-fetched that some of your user personas could be reached through LinkedIn, and some of them could be reached through TikTok. So let's dive straight into defining your marketing goals and how you can align those to your overall business objectives. What are your business objectives? So that is bigger picture there. What are your marketing goals to support the business objectives that you have? So let's look at this quiz. So first, before we start, the quiz is, what does your marketing strategies look like? I'm happy to hear anyone that has implemented a marketing strategy to share with us what that strategy contains. Remember, when you deal with marketing strategies, you can't separate the four P's, the four pillars, which is your product, your price, your promotion, and place. All of that must be incorporated. Anyone who wants to share the marketing strategy for their app that they have, whether it's working, and where they see an improvement for it to work better to achieve the strategic objectives that they've set for themselves, or the business objectives. I think my slide says insufficient access. Sorry, there's something wrong with my slide. Just give me a minute. I'll get it fixed. Sorry about it. Can you see what's okay? Maybe let me do this. Let me skip this slide and see what happens.
People can also just respond in the comments.
Yeah, no, that's much better now. Sorry, I got to fix that. There's just some little glitch. Let's have a look at the comments. Okay, there's none. You could drop me a comments, and or you can unmute and share your marketing strategy that you have so far that worked, and tell us why you believe it worked and areas of improvement to make it even work better. So go ahead. We would like to hear your story.
Hello.
Yep.
Eric from FedCook Studios. Our marketing strategy has mostly revolved around improving our ad quality by measuring ad asset performance, and basically keeping ads that work and creating new ads that use the elements from the best performing ads.
That's great. And which channels did you use?
We use Google Ads.
Oh, so far you've been using Google Ads. You haven't used any other channels besides Google Ads?
So we have done some social media content creation on different social media platforms, which has also helped and is going to factor into our non-paid marketing strategy.
Right. And how many users do you have at the moment?
Our app has had about 500,000 downloads, and we're at about 20,000 active users.
Wow. And have you found out why such a user base but less active users? Have you run any feedback loops, re-engagement activities?
Yeah, absolutely. So we launched our app when it wasn't at its best quality, meaning that we've continued to improve the app quality and focus on retention. So users come in, they play for a little bit, but they don't keep playing. So we've added features like daily rewards, login, streak, push notifications, and improved the quality of graphics and gameplay.
Yeah. It looks like your app marketing plan, it's inside the app rather than finding new users, isn't it? I mean, if you're sitting with that base, I think your marketing activities is to re-engage the users so they can be more active on the app. So thank you for sharing. So obviously, it's very important when we speak of marketing plan is that it must define who is going to be the audience. So in this case, the example shared by Entrepreneur will say that, you know, in this case, the audience will be the users that are inactive in the app because there's already a huge serious significant user base there, solid one. So whereas if your target audience is about acquiring new customers or new users, so we need to define who are those users. Once you define them, then you will know what the marketing objectives are you have in place are. So you could be able to craft them. So if, let's say, for instance, you're trying to get new users as part of your marketing strategy, you want to make sure that you increase the number of the users. And the users, you will then say, well, from the user personas that I have, let's say you've got 10 different user persona, but you feel that user persona group 1 is the one that will drive your revenue. You will then say, well, user persona 1, group 1 is the one that I want to target. And then you will define that into your marketing plan. So in other words, you could have different marketing plans, some of them more specific to specific group within your user personas, because you believe that recruiting them as a users, it does have an impact on your bottom line. So it's important that sometimes we reduce these marketing plans to more specific rather than have a bigger marketing plan that becomes difficult to implement, that also become very complicated to drive home. So always have a very specific market plan where you are sharpshooting exactly who is your target audience. Then you will look at exactly what the metrics are. Remember, we talk about the KPIs, how to measure that. And we'll also talk about brand messaging. So because those audience are not the same, how do you then craft a brand messaging that speaks to them and where they are? So that is important. So a brand messaging for social media, LinkedIn is different for brand messaging for Facebook, Instagram, as well as other platforms outside of social media, email as well, because there are also restrictions within how much of the text size you could use within different platforms. For instance, Instagram as well as time on the video, how long the video can be. So you will have to work with all these restrictions around different channels to be able to craft a compelling brand messaging. that speaks to different audiences across different channels. So that's why it's much easier as a startup to work with one plan that is more smaller, where it's more defined, very specific, probably working with one or two channels at the same time. But if you're going to work with too many different channels, it's going to be difficult for you to monitor the performance of your plan across those different channels, because you're going to need a team. And with the resources you have at a startup, it becomes difficult to hire a marketing team. Marketing team is usually the last team that people hire post startup phase, instead of hiring right in the beginning. Let's then go back to the user personas that we looked at earlier on. I hope I'm not using, so I'm using the older, no, sorry, I thought I was using the older slides. So we've got the WooC, and in WooC is, we've got the name and the demographic information there. Let's go to Tavo. We've got the background and related experience as part of the user persona. And we also have behavioral characteristics across WooC, Tavo, and Lebu. And we also have frustrations with existing products or solutions, which is the pains point there at number 4. So when you're crafting a marketing plan, you will then have to take into consideration all these different items, from the name, demographic, background, related experience. So you will choose which one you believe an impact of your plan will have. You might probably target behavioral characteristics, because probably it's you could have emotional attachment to the users, or you could simply just go straight to the point and say, well, this is your frustration, and that's how I'm going to resolve it. Or you could simply just go by aligning yourself with the demographic information. We've seen that happening before. Many years ago, we had a product called Black Like Me, which was entirely targeting demographic information in terms of Black populations. So that's another example. So you could choose which one where you feel that your marketing plan will have more impact, because you've got limited resources. So you need to be considerate of that all the time. So let's look at how, therefore, do you put into place your marketing plan or marketing objectives. So there are different phases in which you will have to consider to be able to get the best possible out of your marketing plan in line with your marketing objectives. So phase 1, there is a pre-launch and beta testing, which is so important. This will be when you are beginning to introduce your app to the public. So more often your app probably will have a little bit of a bug here or a bug there. But I hope that you fix all those bugs before you actually do the testing, because you get at least the best possible feedback or data on something that is more working than people spending time giving you feedback on fixing bugs instead of actually how they've experienced the product or the feature of the app itself. Because what you want to do with testing is to drive an excitement. People can't wait for it, instead of, oh, this thing didn't work, I tried to log in, can't register me anymore. So you will waste so much resources and time on dealing with the feedback that deals with bugs. So try to iron out all the bugs before you do the pre-launch and the testing as well, all right? So then phase 2, it's when you launch. So in other words, the phase 1, usually it's within the controlled environment. Try to expand it a little bit more, because if you're going to use your families and friends as a controlled environment, they're more likely supportive. They're always going to give you the best possible feedback you can get. It's even some of their feedback, you can see it is all about cheerleading and cheer like pushing you. You can do this. Well done. you want real feedback from the users that have nothing to lose if they give negative or feedback or positive feedback to you. So as much as phase one is a controlled environment, make sure it does include people that don't know you at all and they've got nothing to gain to be nice to you, towards you. Then now you've got all that feedback, then you take it to the next phase, which is the launch. So this phase is about announcing the app to the world, and you could spend a bit of money, yeah, because you're trying to really get it more viral, so that if you get it right and there are more users, probably there could be organic users coming in as well. Probably can go viral, but you end up spending less money. You want to be known. You want people to know that you do exist. A lot of companies spend a lot of money, yeah. So like, for instance, Monday.com, they almost blow off the YouTube platform with their launch. It was almost insane. Like, the minute you watch a YouTube video, you just see Monday.com. So if you've got the budget in millions of rands, phase two is where you should really make a noise. Whereas phase three, if this is post-launch, you're already in the markets for a few months. This phase is really about keeping the momentum going. So you could see this work, this doesn't work. Then what works, you want to keep it going with it, because that's where really the value sits. It's also ensuring that your app stays at the top of the search rankings. You might probably go back and refine some of the keywords when you were listing. Obviously, remember, with keywords, there are restrictions around App Store as well as the other store as well, because it's some of the keywords are extracted from your app descriptions, whereas with the App Store, I think it does allow you to insert, to type keywords in a separate field as well. So post-launch really does talk about gathering feedback as well. Which one is working, which one is not working, where to fine-tune. And the whole point is to create a stability within the markets. You're not thinking of introducing new features. You're trying to get what is already there when you're launching to work. The best you could do is to remove the features when they're not working. But it's too early as well, because some of the features just need to be refined, retuned. You might have to run some educational advertising to teach people about how to use the other features as well before pulling down those features. So these are three phases in which one can build an entire marketing objectives, obviously supported by the marketing plan to go to the markets as a new app. Obviously, it might happen. So just to go back, that your app is already in the market, you've launched. So therefore, in that case, it means you're dealing with phase three, post-launch. What is working there? What do you want to keep? What kind of feedback are you receiving? Is your search ranking correct? Are your keywords supporting your search ranking? Are the users' feedback being collected? How many users are active? How many users are not active? Are you gathering any feedback from both the active and non-active users? What are you doing with that feedback? So if you're already in the market, then you are on more likely phase three of your marketing objectives must be aligned with phase three as well as your plan. So I don't want us to spend time going through the SMART framework, because we did an exercise this morning. Once again, SMART framework, your marketing objectives must be measurable, specific, must be measurable, must be achievable, must be realistic, and must be time bound. So we discuss all of that in details. We don't need to go through that, but I can just give some examples for the team as a refresher. So let's use an example now of a goal that is specific. Give one user, you could say, to go to the markets, right, as part of pre-launch. You could say you will give one user 1,000 Rand coupon selected from valid emails address on the app landing page every month. So this worked very well pre-launch. So you have a landing page, which is on the website, and you actually give sort of like a short description of what the app is all about. And probably if you've got a video of an ad that is in place, you can run that on that page, link that into your YouTube. Then you could ask people to sign up for an app launch. When they sign up, you can then say that if you sign up, you stand a chance to win 1,000 Rand coupon to spend in the app. And that will be based on the selected emails from the people that register or sign up before the launch of the app. So that's another example in which you could run your measurable, your specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and as well as time-bound marketing objective. Let's look at this activity here. You've got 5 minutes to look at what are your marketing objectives for. I would suggest you pick one phase. If you're on pre-launch, just tell us what your ideas are around marketing strategy to get as many users before the launch. If you're already in the market or about to launch, tell us what is your marketing, what are your marketing objectives and the activities that support the objectives to get your app known and successfully launched in the market. And if you're already in the markets, tell us what are your marketing objectives around post-launch. I'm happy to read your comments, and you can also unmute and share your thoughts. Anyone that is in the pre-launch phase at the moment? If you can raise your hand, I can just have a conversation with you and share some ideas. Anyone? Yeah, go ahead, Madhud.
Hi, Mashudu. Good afternoon, everyone. So our app is called Umlimi, which is an agri-marketplace focusing on smallholder farmers. So we addressing the market access for smallholder farmers. So we are at pre-launch stage, but what I decided to do was most of the farmers that we're looking at are farmers that have the capacity to produce, but want access, meaning they are looking for buyers. So government has an agency called National Agriculture Marketing Council, which is the agency of the Department of Agriculture at the national level that focuses purely on that. So I decided to approach them and position the app as a technology partner to support the activities they're doing. And they already have the list of farmers that are supported by government nationally. They also have all the buyers, big buyers, I'm talking about Tiger Brands, hotels, etc., also on their platform. So that they were missing was really the technology part of it, you know. So my strategy was partner with them, get access to the buyers, get access to the farmers, and then we can go and launch. You know, that process took about 6 months. And then finally, we signed a collaboration agreement. Now we have a plan in place to actually go to market, starting with onboarding the buyers first, and then onboarding the farmers, and then doing the roadshows around the country. So at this stage, really our marketing is offline through government, only focusing on farmers that have the capacity to produce, but they are actually looking to be connected with the buyers in their areas.
Okay, I see. That's a very comprehensive strategy. Do you have a landing page at the moment?
Yes, Unlimited app. Yeah, if you can go there.
Okay. And people can sign up and wait.
Yes, the app is live. The app is live actually on the stores on both Google and Apple. You can download, you can sign up, you can list products, you can chat, communicate, you know, all the features that we're starting with are actually there. The features that are probably down the line, for example, we also created a partnership with Standard Bank to launch in the escrow element to this so that the whole trading can be safe. So we already have that, but we haven't activated it yet, you know, until at least we have some users on the system.
That's amazing. Yeah. So this, you're competing more or the same with Kula app, Caritas, is it?
Yeah, 100%. We're playing in that space, but I think Kula is more commercial. They're focusing on commercial farmers mostly.
Yes.
Yes. Whereas we are looking at smallholder farmers. You know, for example, we're looking at a farmer that has a land in KZN and there is an offtake or contract farming for hemp. For example, that's one of the buyers that actually just came in on the system. So where can we find these farmers? And if I am a farmer, I have a piece of land, I'm looking for farm contracting, can I be connected to a buyer
Yeah.
that's willing to actually give me that offtake. So mostly for now, with smallholder farmers, we're not looking at the same market or.
Yeah, they started with a small holding farmers. I know Caritas mentored him at Alan Gray of this foundation. Actually, both the co-founders,
Yes.
Alan Gray fellows. But that's amazing. Yeah. Again, this speaks to that you don't need to wait for your app to come to the markets to have a marketing plan. You could actually have a marketing plan that secure you users in advance before you launch the product. So that's important, especially if you're on phase one of pre-launch as well as testing, because the very same market users, they can help you be able to adjust your product by telling you what they want your product to look like. So that's important. All the best with your launch.
Thank you so much.
And I will encourage also across the board, whether you are to always have a landing page where people could go get more information, and when they download, get rerouted to your app stores. I understand that the stats says otherwise, because the stats says that almost 80% of apps are downloaded directly through app stores, but the stats doesn't tell us whether they were rerouted to the app stores through other channels. So that's important to take into consideration. But we will deal with that landing, I think it's tomorrow or on Wednesday, where we deal into terms of how to list your app in a very competitive way. So let's look at case study of Moyo app. So what then Moyo app did is that they created a landing page right in the beginning. And then they told people that this is going to be a messaging app for free. You don't need to have data. And they piggyback across social media conversations where they tag data free. And remember, there was a time when in South Africa, there was a huge movement that's sort of trying to get the mobile network operators reduce their cost of data, et cetera, et cetera. So they piggyback on that event. So I will encourage you guys to also look at the events around your communities to see if you could be able to make references to your app if your app is aligned with the event that is happening. And that's why some of these big businesses will launch their products or services in a specific month, because that month probably contains certain events that support the launch of the business. So Moyo then really puts a landing page, gained so many users in a very short space of time before the launch. So people were looking and waiting for this app to come through because it's free of charge for you to use. That's the word that people understand. You don't need to have data. And then you've got mobile network operators having data for WhatsApp. They customize this data for socials. And whereas here on the other side, Momo says, no, you don't need that anymore. It's free of charge with us. Just wait, we'll come to you. So now they're sitting with over 10 million users that have downloaded the app, and now they monetize the app. So what then Moyo did is that they use a marketing strategy of free to use. But once you're in, they then start monetizing your data. They then create a marketplace in which you could buy other things such as electricity, et cetera, within the marketplace. And then obviously they then charge a transactional fee for all the activities that happens within the marketplace. So that's their pre-launch. They reward the current customers for bringing new clients as well within the landing page. If you could refer other people to join the waiting list, you stand a chance to, they created incentives, you stand a chance to win something. And in terms of the post-launch, they then monetize the marketplace and build a daily engagement, because now you use Moyo app more than just communicating with your loved ones. You could also buy funeral covers there. You can also then buy product and services that others are offering, as well as electricity. So that's another way in which you could really position your app more competitively before even you launch it. So that's important. Another case study there is Komoyo is the case study. But if one looks at the key performance indicators in terms of being able to understand whether your marketing objectives are being achieved, because having all these objectives is nicer, but we also need to know how to measure them. And I've seen it across many entrepreneurs, especially at a startup level. Sometimes even already on a growth stage, they tend to come with marketing objectives that they can't measure because those objectives sound cool. It's not about something being cool because at the end of the day, you're putting money into it. It's about the ability to measure it, if it's working, if it needs an improvement, if you need to change altogether. So for example, you could set the marketing objectives to increase the number of apps downloaded by women in a certain region. In this case, the KPIs could be to measure all downloads by women in that location. So instead of just clustering every download in one place because your marketing objectives was so specific, remember earlier on I said your marketing objective doesn't need to be changing the whole world. You just have to really be so specific. Here's a good example. If probably the users in your app are more men and you feel that there is a need to balance that user base in case of monetizing it much better, you will then have a marketing objective for 2 or 3 months with a clear intention to drive more users being female. So therefore you build the activities of understanding who is your user persona of a woman, where can you find them in terms of the marketing channels, what activities more likely speaks to them, and then you will design your marketing campaign, your marketing assets on Google ads to target women in specific areas. Time also comes into effect as well. What will be the best time to target the user persona that you want to increase within your user base. So you must be so specific intentionally as well in terms of setting up your marketing objectives because your KPIs becomes easier to measure. So we dealt with KPIs issues. Let's look at them again. You could use cost per installation. So basically here, you get a CPI figure, all right, that you have. You divide the cost of your marketing strategies activity by the number of the app installation. Then you will be able to arrive to the figure. Basically what you do, you say, well, this is the cost per installation, is the cost of my marketing activities. Then you then divide it. Then you will come to an amount of exactly how much it cost you to acquire that or to have that download. So for instance, that helps you to also do the bidding because you could say, well, I'm setting up a budget of 2 Rand per installation. Obviously, Google Ads will tell you whether the bid budget is lower, you must increase it, etc., because of other factors. But this does help you to actually be able to control your budget because once you go into Google Ads, without any understanding of how the bidding and the budget works, your 5,000 Rand or 10,000 Rand is nothing within 10 minutes. It can just go like that. So that is important. So another way to look at whether your marketing objectives are working is the cost per installation. So it's per click-through rate. So this actually what it does, it shows the number of users that click on an ad. So search results or call to action compare to the number of the viewers. So what it does, it measures the success of digital marketing campaigns by helping you to determine if your digital advertisement is reaching the right people. So you can see who's actually clicking to your advertisement. If you're targeting women to be the one that actually download your app more because you have too many, you want to get the balance right, you actually can use a CTR to understand exactly who engage with your advertisements more, whether your advertisement is speaking to the right audience. In this case, the audience will be women. Another KPI, success metric that you could use is Net Promoter Score, NPS. So what this basically means, it incorporates your user feedback. It builds builds a function in your app to ask users how likely they are to recommend the app to their friends and colleagues. So you must build the net promoter score within your apps. So a good example here is that if your app starts with 10,000 users, all right, and 9,000 users are happy to promote her, to tell their friends and family members, you can then take that number and say that, well, 500 users are unhappy and want to delete the app. So therefore, you have 500 are inactive. So you then take the number of the users willing to promote you, and you can then times it by 1 or 2. Then you can get to the number in which you're more likely will get more users from the promoters. The promoters are 9,000 that are happy to use to promote your app. So it's almost as you're building your app and you've got, let's say, 10,000 users signing up before you launch your app. You should not just leave that number there, because that's where you could build your entire net promoter score. Because for them to come and camp and wait for your app, or to even sign up and use your app, they probably have 1 or 2 people they know who can actually do exactly the same as them and sign up and become your user. So that's why building the net promoter score is so important, because it does help you and reduce your cost of acquiring new customers, because you're using an existing user base to get more users, and that feeds into the organic growth that you're looking for. Although in this case it's not organic as such, because you have to influence the process, whereas organic is when people just randomly find you. But here you have influenced the process. You could even build incentives to say, if you refer 5 more users, you qualify for 5% on your subscription. And you've seen it as well with Uber. I think they did a lot of these, but where they ask the users to refer the platform to 5 more users so that they get 5% discount on their next 5 trips on their app. So that is another way to look at the KPIs. Another way to look at the KPIs is the user acquisition rate. So basically here, the acquisition rate shows how quickly your business acquires new users during a given time frame. So this is so important. So as much as you've got the user acquisition rate in terms of how much you spend on acquiring a new user, that's really a very bigger picture, but you still need to break that picture down and say, if you spend 1,000 Rand a week, where does that 1,000 Rand effectively work well? Does it work well in the morning? Does it work well during the day? Does it work well in the evening? Does it work well over the weekend? Once you understand that, you will be able to build your marketing campaign within Google and know exactly when to drive your campaign activities. There are instances when a marketing activity, it's not bad at all, but it was executed at the wrong timeline. So depending on the target users you have, some target users or user personas are more available to engage with your campaign after hours, because they are at work from 9 to 5 or 4, and probably the line of the work based on their user persona and the LSM level in which they find themselves, probably they're not allowed to interact with digital tools or cell phone. So then running advertisement to target those user personas that are not allowed to touch their cell phone between 9 and 4, so you're just basically wasting your money. So the user acquisition rate, UAR, helps you understand when is your campaign going to be more effective in the day or during the week or in the evening or weekend. So let's look at the priorities and the metrics: must have, should have, could have, and won't have. So this is important, especially for startups, app business startups. So must have, this refers to the app core functions, that the features that the app can't function without them. They need to be there for the app to have a business case on them. So in other words, you can't go to the markets without those features. For instance, signing up, having a password reset if you forget that, ability to pay, some basic feature, they need to be there for the app to actually be an MVP and properly work, all right? So you need to do this exercise. Out of everything you have on app, list things that are must have, should have, could have, won't have. What it should have, these are the functions that the MVP can work without, but you prefer them to be there. These features have no, or function have no bearing to the functionality of your app at all. In fact, you could go to the market without them, but going to the market with them, they make your MVP look very exciting. Then they could have, as in could have, these refer to the add-on functions or features that will set the MVP apart in the market. So you're going with them, but you know that they're not the core, but that functionality being there, it's a game changer for your app. And you feel that it differentiates your app from everybody else. As much as they don't have a core impact on the functionality of the app, they actually are as important because they make you look unique. They also make your users feel different by using your app as well. Whereas won't have, these are the features and the functions that are more into, they refers in this in the context of, you will think, no, maybe it's not a good thing to have them. They can be delayed by probably few weeks or months. You already bought them, they're there, but you just feel like, well, maybe these won't really make a huge difference. We can wait a bit. For example, you have a marketing objective that requires you to expand the marketing place with advanced functionalities. So these are usually sit within the advanced functionalities. You want to get your basic out, but obviously you clean up some of the basics where you add more advanced functionalities or features. So these are not really the core to the product as such. So when you have your budget to build an MVP or the app, business app, you must look at all these MSCW because it also speaks to where your resources must go. So if you're going to spend a lot of time building want to have, then you're going to take a lot of resources from must have, should have, and could have, because the first three are so important. But the must have, the app can't function without it. Is there any question before I move on? So Lebogang said the core functionality has to work very critical. Yes, that's important. Because without your must have, you don't have an app. So basically people can't sign in. People can't, if they need to have a profile, people can't have a profile, etc. But having a photo, depending on what type of app you're building, in some apps, having a photo on your profile is not must have. But for something like more of social media, having a photo is must have. So again, that's another example. So let's have a look at this activity. Is if you have to use the framework that we just highlighted now, can you just share with us things that you believe in your app are must have, that you already have and should have, and is cool to have and won't have? I'm happy to hear your examples. You can also drop it in the chat box as well, and I'll be very happy to read your comments. So so let me go back to this. It's must have, should have, could have, won't have, using your current app business. Any take, any reflection of what you have and where does it sit, those functionalities, those features. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, let me jump in again here for feedback. So on our app, the must-haves, obviously sign up, password reminder, ability to post to list your product, select location, etc. Search functionality, and I've already mentioned chat. For me, those were the must-haves for my MVP. But the advanced trading and payments solution, like the escrow that I mentioned earlier, we've already built it, but we think we shouldn't go with it right from day one. Let's wait and see how the activities look like and what the transactions look like, how much money people are actually trading offline, and then only then we can introduce the escrow. So that's on the must-haves and should have.
And want to have something that these are the features that may be included in the future, some ideas, because when you're building an app, you might have some ideas that are amazing, but you feel like, no, this. So basically, we're talking about phase 2, phase 3 kind of ideas here. So what want to have do you have?
Okay, actually, let me just jump into it. I've got a list for phase 2 in here, something that we haven't actually launched. For example, is different pricing per category. So we have listings across local market, exports, auctions, and we also have a category for requests, which is opportunities, like buyer requests. At the moment, we are pricing our subscription for access for everything instead of pricing per category. So, for example, a farmer that has the ability to export has the money to actually pay a little bit more for accessing the export market, as opposed to a guy that is selling spinach, for 30,000 rands. That's his production capacity. I'm making an example. So those are the things that we're actually going to launch at a later stage, which is different pricing tiers for different clientele. That's one. Two, the costing for buyers as well. I think NMC that I mentioned earlier, we're of the view that big buyers like your Pick n Pays and the likes, can actually fund the platform, by having a different subscription tier. That we haven't launched yet, so those are things that we're going to build in phase 2. And the third one is the access to requests and opportunities. So there is a guy in Brazil that's looking for tomatoes. They don't want to search the entire directory that we have. Can they just post a request, and those that actually want to respond, they can respond to that. And then there's additional features like that are AI powered. That's where your Gemini comes in. So currently the app is in English only, but if I'm writing a description in English, but someone that's reading it is in France, or can I actually do AI translation? So I can write in Zulu and say, I'm selling 2 cows, delivery in Mahlabatini, but if someone else wants to read that in Afrikaans, or they've set their language as Afrikaans on their app, can that actually happen via AI? So those are the things that are coming at a later stage here.
That's great. Thanks for sharing. And I've got the chat box in the chat, so go ahead as you suggested. I think let me just call the names so that they go in order. Lebogang and then Silas.
Yes, thank you very much, Mashudu, and thank you very much for the colleagues. So, because as we are more on the social media side, but we needed to be a bit different, and then we needed to create a safe space. So, of course, the photo, the post, and all of those things, it's a must-have. But one of the core features, because we also have got, so it's actually one app for everything. So you can post, you can chat, you can do groups, you can go live like TikTok, you can do all of those things. But what differentiated us was that also the biggest thing was to have a verification process that is easy, where we now did an integration with Smile ID. So what we wanted, because also we are in the education space, so we wanted to make sure that the kids are safe. Whoever that
Yeah.
we're sitting with is actually verified, whether you're in Nigeria
Yeah.
or whatever the case. So now, the minute you start connecting, the app will say, this person is not verified, you are chatting with this person at your own risk. So what we then did is that once you are verified, we give you extra 50 Rand on your wallet, right? And then the first people that are registering, they get 100 Rand. That means they can boost their business with, I mean, our subscription start from 90 Rand.
Yeah.
So at least from that point, those are the key core functionality on our side that we must have. And this is what differentiates us from a security point of view, that whoever is in our platform is actually safe. So for example, we do have a marketplace. You can't sell in our marketplace if you haven't verified yourself.
Verified, yeah.
And so you need to verify yourself instantly with that Smile ID verification and all of those. So that means that the bank account is because you can be able to withdraw your own money. Another must have was that we had to integrate Paystack also, so that
Yeah.
we take certain platform fees so that people, when they start doing whatever, they can withdraw their money instantly. So by law, in terms of regulator, we're not allowed to hold anyone's money. So
Yeah.
Paystack comes into that point. So those are the must-have for us. The other things like your chicken licking, your ice creams, those are things that will continue building as we go on. But those are the must-have on our solution currently now that we
Okay.
do. Thank you very much.
Thanks for sharing. And Silas? You said you will follow. I think you muted. But I'm happy to read Darren's comment. Must have AI-powered fixture analysis, yes. Match with probabilities, yes. Fixtures list and live match, yeah. So then that's important. Obviously, there has to be visibility of user accounts and authentication, subscription and token system, fast and responsive mobile experience, yeah. Personalized features as well as recommendations, reliable back-end API infrastructure, yes, and should have smart notifications, and the list is long. Cost could have, yeah. So Darren has a comprehensive list, and this speaks to what I wanted to say here. Thanks for that. Is that a more cautious approach is to create a priority list of features as well as functionalities to focus on the pre-launch, those that comes launch, and those come post-launch activities as well. So must have, more likely it's going to be aligned with pre-launch, and should have probably as well. Launch will be could have, and post-launch activities will be want to have, which is now doing more advanced features as well as functionalities. Yes, I want to go back to Silas. You still there? You're online?
Oh yes. No, I'm here. Been muted. Yeah, but on our side, because we are a designated driver service, so I think a must-have with us is a payment gateway that actually had a credit card feature. We tried to do a pre-launch without the credit card feature, and that actually halted us from getting new clients, because most of our target clients are actually credit card users.
So what
And
were you using? Were you using cash?
no, we were actually using the EFT, and yeah, it was actually a hassle and a headache for the clients, and we were using the Samsung Pay and the Apple
Yeah.
Pay, but not knowing that actually all their Samsung Pays and the Apple Pay, they are linked to their credit card.
Yeah.
So yeah, so they couldn't go through to process the payments on that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, that is sorted out, and I think
Obviously, validation in terms of the users is important, right? I mean, looking at the crime stats, you want to make sure that all the users are properly validated on your platform, isn't it?
definitely.
I think this cut across almost all the apps, especially if there's money movement and exchange of goods and services between users. Authentication becomes everything, isn't it?
Definitely.
It's kind of like a must have.
It must have.
That's great. So thank you for sharing your example. I think there's one more I would like to share in the group. From Frank, says that this family safety app must have sign up SOS, yes, to be able to call for help. Circle members tracking, yes, should have. Driving records, driving analytics, driving insights could have. Pet tracking also, so in case if someone is as a pet, can also include that into assets tracking as well, cars, vehicles. That's important. We want to have in the app messaging, incident reporting. I would like to know why that is not must have if it's a safety app. I would think app messaging and incident reporting comes with it right at the get-go. But I would like to read your chart, and for me, I'm just thinking, if this is a safety app, messaging and reporting, incident reporting becomes everything. Yeah. All right. You can just drop me a message in the chat, Frank. I'll follow up on your questions, on your answer to my comments. So let's go to the second part of this session. It's about how to identify the audience and the marketing channels. It's such a very detailed exercise, although we take it for granted, because to identify a user, it's one thing, and to know where the users are, it's another thing. So let's look at Google Analytics, the demo that you're seeing on your screen. So this is talking about demographic data that is contained in the Google Analytics. So let's illustrate this demo. So let's say you could see there are different user attributes in the report sections. So what you need to do to be able to understand your users or identify your targeted audience, you need to then log into Google Analytics. And then you need to select or tap the user attributes in the report section of this report. And then you can open the demographic details tab. There you will see the overview tab. There's a number of filters that you could use, as well as charts. Then you could see exactly the user interest in your product. You can also look at the location as well, which is important, because when you talk about identifying target audiences and you talk about channels, does not mean that you don't have to know where the location is, because when you put together Google ad campaign, you could restrict it to different locations where you believe your users are, because that will help you to save money. And actually, it's encouraged that you apply locations in your settings. So you know, either you want to drive user acquisition in Western Cape, Cape Town, or Johannesburg, because you also need to make sure that your location is within South Africa if your app has to do with South Africa. So you don't want to have users that are all over the world. So location becomes important, because location also speaks to culture as well. So when you build your marketing, your Google Ads assets, you will be able to know how to shape them, because if your location it's Soweto, then your brand messaging to get to this targeted audience will speak to that as well. So you'll try to pick up one or two lingos that seems to resonate with people that lives in Soweto. So this is another example of how you could actually identify audience to be able to know how to reach them where they are and which channels to use. So let's look at audience characteristics that you should pay attention to. Is to look at the age range. It's very, very important. consideration because some of the interests and preferences they change with age. So things that I used to do when I was on my 80s are not what I do now. So age is everything actually when it comes to the audience. So if you've got an app that grows with the users from the age of 18 all the way to 50 to 55 years, then you've got a super amazing app. So I want to pick what I said to Frank. So thanks, Frank, for replying. So Frank is saying, in app messaging, the app integrates with WhatsApp. So app messaging within the app itself is not necessary. Okay, great. That answers my point. Yeah. Thanks for that. Thanks, Frank. So now I understand why messaging is not required. So coming back to audience is age is everything, all right? And some people get married, some divorce, unfortunately. So gender, it's also important. We need to know, if you want to know what your audience is, we need to also affect the gender as well. It is important because it's such a distinctive audience characteristic that you can't ignore. So because it also informs your marketing campaign, your assets, how they look like. So the colors you use as well could speak to the gender as well. Colors that are more warm, friendly, seems to be more associated with women compared to colors that are more solid and bold. That solid and darker are more associated with men. I mean, that's just what we grow up understanding in terms of audience characteristics. Common behavior, traits, and habits are important as well, because this speaks to if your app has health, it talks about wellness features in it, targeting people that do hiking or go for walks or go for jogging, running, cycling will make a lot of sense. So therefore, in your audience characteristics, that then becomes important than probably someone who's got an app that sells food online. That's not important to you, all right? So understand your app will actually, features that are there will help you understand who your target audience is, or in terms of their characteristics. Psychology as well does play an important role here, because you need to understand your audience, how they behave. If you can predict based on the data available, you could actually understand how your audience feel about certain situations or tasks. You can also design your app to meet their emotional needs. But remember, playing around with customers' emotion is not the goal. The suggestion here. The suggestion is to understand psychological impact of your audience, because that's part of your audience characteristics mapping. So let's look at an issue of physical location. It governs obviously the cultural background and needs of an individual user. So Soweto has its own cultural background, right? Khayelitsha has its own cultural background. So location is important. And obviously location doesn't mean because it's township or Cape Flats, it means everything is the same. There's a huge difference between Khayelitsha, Gugulethu, and Kwalang. Big time differences. So, but understanding location does help you understand how to actually engage that audience, all right? So for instance, crime is very significant in certain parts of Kwalang, probably not much in Gugulethu, probably certain parts of Khayelitsha. So understanding cultural background does help you understand how best you can engage with your audience. So there are many other characteristics that you could look at as well. Like, someone whose marital status is married or single. They tend to get influenced by certain way of certain advertisements And I think insurance companies have done this very well, but where even the premium does change when you're single or when you're married. I'm not sure if you're divorced, that changes as well. Family background is also very important as well, because it does speak to your audience characteristics that you need to put into place. So there's a lot of information you could get from Google demographic analytics in terms of demographic information. Obviously, something that is not there that you know that is important for your app, you could just include it. Because once you get these characteristics right in terms of the audience, you will know how to talk to them, you know where they are, how to find them, what makes them tick, what makes them excited, what makes them disappointed. So you'll then tailor your engagement, your advertisement campaigns in a manner where they will feel like he or she's talking to us with this ad, exactly where people are. So there are different types of marketing channels, obviously, that we should be considerate of. And I think my Slido is doing the same thing. So there are different types of channels. I will just go through them. Here, it's social media. So it's social media, the SEO, the influencers marketing, which is very big at the moment, very expensive. Content marketing, paid advertisement via Google Ads. You're going to get those credits. Partnership marketing. This is so important. And let me just pause there. You might find that in this group of entrepreneurs, there's a huge capital, what I call it, partnership marketing capital sitting in this group. That if you collaborate, if you know how to collaborate, you pick the same agency, you know how to collaborate, you can actually help each other get to the market or grow your businesses. So I will encourage you guys to find ways of sharing your businesses with each other. Because partnership marketing is not about finding a company that is so big already. It could be two startups that comes together that could collaborate and be able to drive user base for each other and revenue as well. Referral marketing, it's another way, direct marketing, push notifications. This is definitely needs to sit into your market, your app. Your app must have push notifications because that's the best way you could drive a lot of communication, especially around retaining the existing customers and make them spend and use the app more. Billboards, this offline, more physical. Street polls, I think we're not going to go there. Only Johannesburg, I think, does allow street polls. Other provinces, municipalities, doesn't allow that. Newspapers and unpaid or editorial, it's another form. So, but we'll dive into some of these in details because the most important thing is that when you select your marketing channels, there are many things that you need to take into consideration. It's your time and resources cost. All right, so some platforms are more expensive than the others. Speed, how quick do you want to get into the markets? Because some channels take time to actually gain momentum because those platforms are too busy as well. So one will say probably influencer is probably the quickest way to get into the markets because they have so much influence. If obviously their accounts are properly set up, that you could almost get as many users as possible. And obviously going through associations in terms of recruiting users. If you're offering business services in your app and you go to business association to recruit those users, B2B, that's another speed you can look at it as well. Scalability, it's important when you look at marketing channels. Can you scale your marketing activities through the channels? Return on investment goes with resources as well. You know, you must try to spend less in that marketing channel to get more. And expertise, do you know how to run that market channel, that channel? It's important. There are people that knows how to run social media integration, as well as those who knows how to run SEOs as well. They specialize in that. They optimize all the stuff online and they do very well as well. So if you don't have expertise, please try to find people that have expertise to help you with that. So let's look at Moyo app pre-launch marketing strategy that they have applied. They announce themselves on the landing page as the new kid. They educate people about the importance of data, cost, and budgeting. They run commercial campaigns via that landing page. They also invite fans and potential partners through the landing page. They attracted angel investors because of that. Just based on the landing page before the app was launched, there was already lots of angel investors willing to put their investment on Moya's app. Obviously, they also run a lot of word of mouth marketing activities using existing user to talk to other people that they know, either as family members or friends. That was all cost effective. So if your app is at a pre-launch stage, you might consider running a landing page and build a lot of marketing activities there. You'll be surprised of what you could achieve. So let's look at the issue of marketing channels, multi-marketing channels. The multi-marketing channels basically saying that you're using more than one channel. It's very expensive, especially for a startup, because what it means that you're running activities on social media at the same time running email campaigns, as well as running SEOs, as well as any other traditional advertising to create this whole hype and different areas in which people could access your product. It's going to be very expensive for a startup. So that's why it's difficult to run a multi-channel marketing. But just for the sake of this exercise, what multi-channel marketing can do for you is that it does basically connect different channels all together in such a manner that your target audience can easily be reached. You can't miss them. So what you do is that once you define the characteristic of the audience, you can then say, well, this person more likely spend time on TikTok as well as spend time on Instagram. All right. Then that user on his or her own has created two multi-channels for you. So you want to get that user. You know that there are 2 points in which you must go for, and that creates the multi-channel experience, because it's one user, but you want to try to get them through different channels. In case the other channel is a miss, the other channel will be a gain. As I said, it can be too expensive. So it does help with collecting data because it helps with data-driven decisions. Because now you can be able to compare different channels and the performance. So it does also help to understand whether your performance was just because of Instagram. It could have done better on TikTok, for instance. So those are the benefits of multi-channel marketing. Then it does help you to select a channel that is more suitable for your product, because your app, because you could see which channel happens to perform much better than the other. Then you could say, well, it's the same as when you invest in with the likes of Allen Gray. You will see the performance of different unit trust, and then you can say, well, look, I want to move my money more into the other one because it seems to be performing very well. So it's the very same thing in here with multi-channel marketing. It gives you data that you could be able to compare which channel seems to actually perform much better to get the targeted persona that you have defined, and also share the characteristics, their characteristics as well. So in terms of legal ethics, it's important as well there, because multi-channels, as much as they give you a lot of opportunities, they all have different legal and ethics consideration to work with. For instance, some of these legal and ethics are just by virtue of the users themselves. For instance, it would be so strange to have on LinkedIn to have a campaign that is probably, let's say, showing a swimming costume, for instance, whereas you could have that on Instagram or TikTok. So again, some of these ethics are just they're not written anywhere else. They just happen to happen because of the platform itself and and what people are expecting when they join those platforms. Personalization becomes important. It does help you a lot with tailoring your communication directly to the people. Some platform does give you that opportunity, such as email. You could personalize your email to your target audience, whereas other platform doesn't give you that opportunity. So if you feel that your marketing activities could be well achieved by personalizing those marketing activities, therefore emails and SMS could also be an option to look at it. In terms of consistency, that obviously is important. Some channels can give you consistency. I can't see email marketing happening every month of the same. Whereas you could run same advertisement of the same on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram every day, but on emails, I can't see you sending emails every day of the same campaign. You're basically now not longer running a marketing campaign. You're bothering people now. Whereas in terms of integration and automation, they all differ. Some give so if you're looking for integration and automation, then you need to choose the channel that actually does speak to that more. So, but obviously, if you're going to go with multi-channels, you then have to understand how you're going to be able to, look at all these channels' performance data. You might need not be able to do it humanly. You might need to look at the integrations of some of these channels together. You could use Google Workplace scheduling tools. Does help you with integrating different channels, multi-channels, and driving these campaigns so that you could reach the target audience that you intended to. Being agile and adaptability is important because with digital trends, they're always evolving. So your multi-channel marketing strategy must be prepared to change and pivot in some areas where there's a new trend in technology. Social media does help you do that very well compared to the emails, because emails you send it, receive on the other side, it is what it is. Whereas with social media, you could send the short videos and supplementing videos as well as other content as well in real time. Whereas the measured success is important. As I said, you can see which channel performs much better than the other. You can compare an apple with an apple, but working with one channel, that's what you're stuck with. Whether it works or not working, you can't compare it with any other thing else. And then you've got, then the last important is the ability to improve and iterate and change your campaign. You get that a lot from social medias, where you could pull that video off YouTube as well and replace it with more updated. You could make live changes as well in some areas, or feed new text into videos already to sort of improvise on what you already shared. Whereas with the email, you can't because, unless you can pull that email back, but in most cases, you can't. So these are things you must consider when you're looking at the multi-channels. We are almost there, just for a few more slides left, and we bring this day to an end. So let's look at an example here, Brand Sense, all right, for multi-channel marketing. So what these guys did, I did check them actually 4 days ago, funny enough. They are not as active as they used to be. So Brand Sense started as a Facebook connecting small businesses with buyers, and they were obviously locked within the Facebook as a channel itself. So basically, they built a business using marketing channel, which is Facebook. And as they start experiencing growth and obviously different needs, and people are subscribing on monthly basis, different users, and now they're creating this marketplace, they move into an app. I've lost track of how far or how good the app was, but it is my understanding that they are not as big as they were on Facebook via the app, because with the app, they have in-app purchase options, if I'm not mistaken. And as a result of that, people fell off, many users. Here's the point that I'm trying to make, is that your channel could actually be the breadwinner for your app, because Brown Sense moved from Facebook group format to an app, and that migration, I don't think it worked well. So because people were like, okay, we're using our Facebook profile to sign up for this Brown Sense. I'm seeing so many other people that I know, and suddenly are being migrated to a mobile app. Some people felt lonely because now you're no longer seeing what others are doing. You're in the app, you just see a few comments. But overall, with the social media Facebook page, you could go to their profile and see what other things they're doing in relation to Brown Sense and other things not related to that. So there was a culture there that, in terms of audience, that Brown Sense didn't really take into consideration when they tried to have multi-channels. They had both Brown Sense, social media, Facebook is still there. They also have an app. Therefore, now it was looked at separating the users into two different groups, the one on the social media group and the one on the mobile app. So when you choose your multi-channels, be careful with that, because your target audience could be moving around or could be preferring not moving around different channels. So let's look at the activity here. It's about identifying a target audience and market channels. So I'm happy to hear from this group. If you can unmute and tell us who really do you believe is the main target audience that you have as primary, and who do you believe is a secondary to your business app? I'm happy to hear, because usually it does happen that you have obviously multi-users, target users, but there's always going to be the one that, if we can achieve this particular audience and draw that audience into our business, the rest will fall into place. It's the same as a flea market business. When you're setting it up, a physical one, do you advertise to the people or you get the tenants first? You get the tenants first. Are they customers to come and buy from the tenants? Again, it's the same situation. And I think a lot of mobile apps find themselves in that situation. Which actually user to get first and which user to get last? And what impact does that have on the business? So the global app says women 21 and above and secondary high school girls. All right. That's any particular reason why in that order?
Because most of the people that are traveling on a daily basis is women going to work or shopping and stuff. Younger girls will be going out on a weekend. During the week, they'll be transported by parents. So if a parent is not available during the weekend, then they request rides. But with us here, they can also have their own account so that they can travel during the week. But our main target is women from 21 years and above, because they need transport on a daily basis.
That's good. But these are the passengers, all right?
Yes, they are passengers.
So between the passengers and the drivers, who do you think you're going to get? You must get first. You need drivers.
We're struggling with that. We need drivers, lots of drivers. We need passengers.
So
drivers say they want a platform that already has users. So now you find yourself with more users that are requesting without drivers available.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Is that when you identify the target audience, you still need to rank them. Which one is the primary and which one is the secondary? And that becomes really a messy situation, because You want to have drivers, more of the drivers, so that the passenger can request the drivers easily. But the drivers want to come to a platform where there are customers.
Yes, because currently we find ourselves in a situation where there's passengers complaining that, okay, I've been requesting and it says searching for a driver, and lots of them are searching for drivers, but we have like very few drivers and they're scattered around Gauteng. So it's a very huge problem for us.
Yeah, and what do you have in place to resolve that? Because you actually don't know where to start to get the drivers. They want the customers. To get the customers, they want the drivers.
Okay, so we now planning on doing mall promotion or mall activations. Go to entrances or drop-off points in malls where we definitely know there'll be female drivers dropping off people there. So we have printed flyers so that we can go straight to the people on ground floor and not just on social media like we've been doing. So go straight to them face to face, one-on-one. In that same area, there'll be female passengers waiting to request on other platforms. So that's where we want to get them.
Yeah, such an interesting dynamics, because if you've got an app that connects two different users to do business together, you're definitely sitting with the very same dilemma. Would you recruit in large number first versus if there are two users, who do you prioritize? So that's what we're talking about here, is that you will find yourself in a situation where, even though you are identified the user and you know them very well, who they are, but to prioritize them and get them, because remember, you've got limited resources, to try to get to them does complicate things, especially if you don't know, if you don't know, if it's difficult to prioritize the users. So let's get to the last part of this session, and we should be wrapping up in the next few minutes, probably another 5 more minutes. Let's look at cost-effective messaging, because this speaks to exactly what the global app shared with us is how do you therefore communicate to 2 or 3 or 4 different users to come to your app and use your app, connect and do business together. So effective communication becomes everything. So far, let's look at let's think about your core message theme, if you've got any. So basically, a core message theme is the beat that your target audience will understand, remember and reflect their needs and aspirations. So there's an example there: don't panic for Namola, and Dhruvis into a virtual tower in a minute. So your core message should tackle your target audience pain points. We dealt with this as well earlier on, and explain how your app will solve the problem. So you might find yourself, in terms of the app about the ride, you might find yourself have to create 2 different brand messaging, one to the drivers and one to the customers. So some app, what they do, they usually will lock one user at a time. So they'll say, we're recruiting drivers in the next 30 days. And once that is achieved, then they go recruit the passengers. So they split their focus, but obviously that extend your time in terms of getting the users on board, because you've got specific months dedicated to do one thing and another month another thing, and hoping that you will obviously be successful in that. So that you've got an example of the core messages there. The core message must always include the pain point, as well the unique value proposition sits there as well. Yes, there are some brand messaging that does include a unique value proposition, because why? Because probably they already established market presence and they feel that people already know how different they are. They don't need to keep on reminding people how different they are. So they go with more of like a very consistent maintaining relationship kind of brand messaging rather than saying, look at us, how different we are, because they're already in the markets for a very long time. So let's look at the components of key messages. It must be clear. So your language there needs to also speak to the LSM 1 to whatever number we have in South Africa. It must be effective, easy to remember, easy to recognize. It must be short and snappy. It must be memorable. I must remember it. Just do it. Nike. It's probably the most catchy brand messaging, right? Just do it. Whoever came up with that brand messaging is genius. It's just 3 letters. Just do it. And if someone says just do it, whether we are in a business meeting talking about engineering or talking about military or science, I just think Nike. So that's the power of brand messaging we're talking about here. It must be relevant, of course. Just do it speaks to sports, all right? Speaks to, you don't need to be a pro to wear Nike. You can just do it. If you're a pro sporter, you can do it. Just do it because you can do it. It speaks to all the audience, the sporty and non-sporty audience. So you know, which is amazing. Let's look at the Minders app, which is this is an app for the pets. So you can see when you talk about brand messaging, all right. So obviously, a lot of time we focus on the text, all right, but everything there is a brand messaging, even the color. So that's a warm color. You know, if you've got a puppy or a pet at home, a cat, and you see a picture like that, and it says your pet care journey companion, it really does speak to you, right? You'll pay attention to it. But if this color was red, same everything, but the color red, you more likely will not pay attention to it, because if you talk about pet care, you're talking about something that is gentle and very particular, very easy, warm, and caring. So the color there speaks to that. So please get your color scheme right. Some of the colors speaks more to finance. Some of the colors speaks more to education. Get your scheme colors right, because that will help you be able to get the best possible brand messaging. Because the first thing people see is the color before they read the text. So I will say, therefore, in my experience, brand messaging, in first instance, is through the color. Obviously, adapting your message is important. When you collect data from the people, your target audience, how they react, it does help you to reshape your brand messaging across different channels, because you could have brand messaging across different channels that is not the same. You could have brand messaging on social media that's slightly different, because the target audience that you're going for are in the social media, and then you can have a different brand messaging for email addresses, because the target audience is different. So you could have different brand messaging across even social medias themselves, Facebook versus LinkedIn. So it is important to always adjust your messages based on the feedback that you're getting from your target audience. So that speaks to different channels. And one speaks of adapting your messages for a website, brand messaging for a website. It's going to be different, because you've got a lot of space there. You could have a wide variety of content on your website. Whereas for social media, let's take Facebook as an example. You can post a variety of content, including infographics, polls, short videos, photos, text, but you've got 125 characters limit that you have to work with. Again, that's, you know, the ads needs to be formatted in a specific way. And you go to the emails, you know, your newsletters are normally plain text. You can incorporate videos, photos, simple formatting. If you use an email client, you can personalize them, the message. There's a sense of belonging when you say, dear Mashudu Majia, we would like to invite you. You know, I feel great already being invited and someone is calling my names or writing my name down. So remember that emails sent to professionals. So in other words, your contact, your text, your photos, videos must be professional. You can't send an email marketing or newsletters, and your content is for the TikTok. You see what I mean? There's a content for LinkedIn. There's a content for TikTok. There's a content for email address. So let's look at Zapper as an example. Look at that simple pioneers in payments. They use that color and they're consistent with that color. Let me show you how consistent they are. So they use that color across different videos and different marketing materials for different marketing channels that Zapper use. They use different channels because payment acceptance, it's not only for the LinkedIn users, it's also for TikTok and email users as well. So they had to adjust their brand messaging across different channels, but still driving exactly what Zapper is all about. Then you've got, so that's another example. So let's look at organizing your marketing, and then we'll bring this to an end. Just a few examples. So you could use Google Calendar. It's very good on doing that. So it does help you to set up dates, time. You could integrate your Google Calendar with the events within your country. So like Mother's Days, Valentine's Days, and you can run some campaigns around that. So you could look at different steps, how to set up Google Calendar. You could define customers' journey. You could audit the channel's content and timelines within the calendars. You could also create performance statistics to see which content performs much better than the others. You could also look at timelines that are more specific, when to post, date and time, if possible. You could link that to events within your country. If it's Women's Day or there is a Human Rights Day, you could then make sure that the calendar speaks to that. And then the fifth one, review the content calendar, and then you launch your strategy. So that's a way in which you could use the Google Calendar to create content and distribute the content across different channels. So let's look at the 4 mistakes to avoid, and then we bring this to an end. Is make sure that there's no one size. So if you think there's one size fits all, nope, doesn't work that way. Each channel is different. Even if you're targeting the same users, make sure that you use the data, make decisions on data that you're receiving to be able to refine. You must always be more agile, flexible, to be able to change. So use the channels that allows you to be more flexible, and you must engage with your audience. So remember the feedback loops that talk to you about. Here's an example of the launch plan that is done on a Google Calendar. You can see it's colorful, different colors there and different times as well. So that's all we have for today. Just to do the takeaways for today is that we look at how to craft a user persona that speaks to your product, how to extract value, unique value proposition, and how to then put together unique value proposition statement. And we also look at to craft marketing plan that is more compelling, and how to use SMART framework in terms of setting up your marketing objectives. And also now we just finalize this by how to set up different marketing channels to achieve your marketing objectives. That's all from my side for today. And again, thank you very much for your time to listen. I'm looking forward to see you tomorrow.